Well, hello, everyone. Welcome or welcome back, depending on how many of these you've seen. My name is Tommy Hensel, and I am the director of the Fine and Performing Arts Center at Moraine Valley Community College. Moraine Valley is located in Palos Hills, Illinois. It's a southwest suburb of Chicago. Like every performing arts center in the world for the past few weeks, or few months, it seems like, we have been dark. So we have not been presenting any artists, and we're not quite sure when we're going to have live performance again. So in the process of trying to figure out, how we're going to navigate through all of this and how we're going to stay connected with everyone, we came up with this idea of doing a weekly series where I sit down with an artist, someone who has been on our stage in the recent past few seasons, someone who was popular. And in full disclosure, I'm only picking artists that are close personal friends of mine who I really want to talk to. So there you go. You got some criteria about how we're choosing our artists. So the idea was to sit down and talk to these artists about, about what they do as performers, but also just to get to know them more as people as well. So we're excited that we've been able to have some, wonderful people so far. We have some great people coming up, and I'm going to have to throw my vanity out the window and wear these glasses because I can't see my computer screen without them to navigate things. So tonight, I'm really excited to welcome to the broadcast studio, the virtual broadcast studio, one of my best friends who is an amazing performer who's been on our stage twice, but who I've known for quite a long time and whose work I greatly admire. So please welcome to the Meet the Artist broadcast studio, ta-da, Lisa Rock.
Hey.
Hey, Lisa.
Hi,
I'm going to scooch over a little bit now that I can center myself.
Like trying to navigate. My left, your left, yeah.
I know. The hard part is I'm looking at this screen and everything is backwards. So that's my right hand, and it drives me crazy because it's going up.
I'm doing the same thing, and I'm like, oh, did I have what's on my shelf? I'm looking at my own bookshelves, going, what's on there?
And I was thinking a minute ago, I'm drinking a glass of wine, and I was like, maybe I'll show it to people, but I have to put it on the wrong side, and so I'm going to take a sip.
Right? It's such a different world now, and we're trying to learn how to navigate this life, this new reality.
Well, I have to say what I think is really cool for me is that this program that I'm using is called StreamYard in order to interview artists. And, as we were talking beforehand, and I was sort of moving you through some of it, it's actually, I am not a technical person. This is super easy and it looks really slick and professional.
It does.
Let me tell you, not all that hard. So anybody who wants to go out there and start doing broadcasts like this, believe me, if I can do this, anybody can do
well,
this.
And I heard someone else told me, I have to find out what it is, that there's one for musicians now that you're in. There's not a delay on anything.
Yeah, I did hear about that. So I am super excited. And I have
I want to know what it is and broadcast to that. Tell everybody, here it is. Here's the new app.
Yeah, so when you find out, you tell me. And if I find out, I'll tell you. And behind the scenes here in the broadcast studio, you can't see them, those of you who are watching us. We have a couple of wonderful friends of mine. One of them is someone who works on the staff at the Fine and Performing Arts Center, Amanda Hansen. So I'm going to task her with looking into that, researching that to find out what that, and she just gave me a thumbs up because I can see her, nobody else can. So Lisa, I'm so excited to have you on the stream tonight. Hold on, I'm clicking while I'm talking. I can't multitask. I'm horrible.
No, but thank you. Thanks for having me. You know anything for you, and we've been such dear friends since the minute we met, and it was just instant. And I give you. I don't know if I hope I give you enough credit for you were one of the first. Well, I do, just because you were one of the first venues outside of the home theater where I started that brought me in, and we sold out. And I think I told you later, but when you go somewhere and people, you don't realize the value you probably have and how we regard you and how everyone regards you in the industry. And to have sold your venue out so early on in the beginning of our career with the band, it validated everything. And I know we have the talent. I understand that, but the value of presenters and what they can do for the artist, and how they then, because I did that, not only did I say I sold it out, I said, this is Tommy Hensel. Oh, I know Tommy. So then that helps propel us other places. And people need to remember that it's this symbiotic relationship. And I think we're seeing that right now in the industry, because we all really do need one another and showing each other that. But I'm just saying thank you, because you've been a part of this from the beginning. It's our 10-year anniversary this year.
No, I can't believe it. I did look back in my history of booking and realize that it was about that long ago that you did your first Carpenter show, and then a couple of years later came back for the Christmas show, and we're in negotiations for, not this year, but for 2021 to hopefully bring that Christmas show back again. So one of the things that I like about this Meet the Artist kind of concept is I know you, and I know a lot of the other people that I'm talking to, but sometimes there's questions that I thought, I don't think I've ever asked Lisa that question. So for me, I would love to know, for you as a performer, when you were a kid growing up, was this what you thought you wanted to do? I mean, was this your first career choice? And then the second part of that question was like, when did you fall in love with music? When did that happen for you?
So I love saying I was born in Warren, Ohio. I'm from Warren, Ohio. And I was that kid from the time I was probably 4 or 5, that my granddad on my mom's side, my grandpa Moran, they knew it. I didn't know this. I didn't know this was a thing. I had no fears. I was always that kid who had no fears. I would imitate people. And I understand Karen Carpenter was also quite a parrot. She could imitate people. I would imitate actors that people liked. My grandfather loved John Wayne. So they'd pick me up and put me on the picnic table, and I would sing, I would act, I wasn't afraid of anything. When I went back home, gosh, right after college, I have that laminate. I don't know where it is. I have this laminated piece of paper from the 4th grade, and we had to say what we wanted to be and what we wanted to do. The first thing was a singer. So it was a singer and an actress. So I always knew I wanted to do music. I've always been the one singing around the house. I would listen to everything. I listened to my records. We had a pull string light in our spare bedroom, which is where we had the record player and all the records lined up. Mm-hmm. I used to sing into that pull string like I was in a recording studio. So music for me, it was everything. And I was exposed to, my parents were children of the 60s. And so the Beatles, Elvis, the Doobie Brothers, all the Motown, we had everything. And so I was influenced by everything and loved every kind of music.
So did you, when you went off after high school, did you go to study music?
I did. I did. So I was the first, there was a woman who was a piano teacher in my town, and she had, I remember this so clearly too, Founces, what was it? I can't remember what the last name was, but I won an award. It was the biggest award they'd ever given for music. This woman was a piano teacher. She left a foundation for someone from Warren going on to study music. And I won that scholarship as well. I was a Division I swimmer. I had a swimming and a music scholarship.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that you were a swimmer. Yep. Yes.
Yep. So I say people are always, they'll kind of look at me and I'm like, it's the shoulders, right? I said as a swimmer. Still swim. That's still my exercise of choice, which I miss. I'm about to jump in my pond and swim through the pond, except I'm like leeches and, turtles.
Yeah, I've seen that pond. Yeah, I wouldn't
jump in. It's not so, no, right? It's not something you want to jump in.
No.
So I had the music and swimming scholarship, and I came from a very working class family, and the idea of just doing music, I wanted to find something that had a degree with it that I could have a job while I pursued that. Mm-hmm. So I have my degree in music therapy.
Okay.
And so I had to be proficient in piano and guitar, and voice was my main instrument. So I went to music school with I didn't learn how to read music basically till I got to college, and studied very hard, worked very hard, spent the summer, my sophomore year, with my guitar morning and night, and learned how to play from there. And sang everything, tried everything. I had to study opera first, of course.
So did I. Yeah.
Yep. And got into musical theater my senior year. I auditioned for musical theater for the first time and did the Pajama Game. I was one of the, gosh, what was it? I know. Hernando's Hideaway.
Yes, I love that show.
Hideaway.
Yeah.
And then went off campus that year and auditioned for Into the Woods and got the baker's wife. And that was it. I was done. I was like, music, anything musical. I was asked to be in a lot of bands, and I turned every one of them down because remember, back in our day, I say that back in our day, you could smoke in all the bars, and I respected my instrument, and I would not do that because I was afraid it would hurt it, which, as we know in hindsight, it does. So I never joined a band. I just sang, doing everything that I could, everything else that I could, church jobs,
Yeah. I had to turn down a lot of gigs as a singer up until the mid 90s because of smoke in bars. I would absolutely not perform in a bar that had smoke because I knew that I would sing fine that night and I wouldn't be able to sing for 2 more days.
Remember that?
Remember
that? Remember when we were in college when you'd go dancing? And the next day you'd wake up and I've had the long hair for a while and I'd be like, oh my, it was just sickening.
Oh yeah.
I feel sick from it. And I'm like, well, that can't be good for my lungs.
I remember actually coming home from either going out to partying or even when I did do some gigs where there was smoke, of literally having to strip outside my house or in the in the garage and leave my clothes outside and then go take a shower and go to bed and then wash the clothes the next day. I mean, it was bad.
It was in your pillow. I can remember smelling the pillow and being like, oh, I'm done. I need to get, wash this. What about you? I've never asked you that question. What got you I'm turning.
Oh, that's cool. I started studying piano I think it was the 2nd grade. Okay. It was really young. It was the 2nd grade. And in the 3rd grade, they had in my church, there was a 3rd grade choir. That was the first choir that you could join, was when you were in the 3rd grade. So
Did you have a robe? Did you have the cute little robe?
Oh yeah. I was raised in I grew up in South Carolina and I was raised in an Episcopal church. And it was what's called a high Episcopal church, if you know the Episcopal religion at all. So it was very Catholic in its conception of ceremony and dress. And the church that I went to was the cathedral that was the seat of the Diocese of Upper South Carolina. And it was based on York Minster Cathedral. So it was kind of a scale version of that beautiful cathedral with the giant rose glass, stained glass windows. I mean, really elegant, and it was everything but incense and no pope. But but it's about as Catholic as you can get without that. But so the robes were a big deal, and there was always the procession, and I was I stayed in the choir all the way through high school. And alternated Sundays sometimes as an acolyte. So, I would be an acolyte some Sundays, but finally I gave that up and said, look, I just want to be in the choir. So 2nd grade piano, 3rd grade started singing and realized that I really loved that as a kid. And I was a really shy, introverted child. And for me, that was the place where I could shut everything else out and not worry about my social anxiety.
Interesting.
And focus on performance. So it was probably about in the 6th grade that interestingly, my mother got so concerned about how introverted I was and how I would just go to school, come home, do my homework, and I had very few friends, and all I did was live in a little bubble. So she enrolled me in an after-school program at a local community theater on the advice of one of her first cousins, who was a very, very talented and well-known actress in our hometown. She could have been professional. She just chose a different path, and she was very good. And so I started taking this after-school theater program, and my poor mother years later was like, oh my God, I had no idea what I was unleashing when I did that. So yeah, that was kind of the same as you. The first time I suddenly discovered being on stage in a role and being able to become someone else
Yeah.
for a
Oh,
period of time. And for
yeah.
somebody who is shy and bullied and
Yeah.
really uncomfortable and unsafe in the world,
Yeah.
that the theater becomes a kind of special haven for,
It's your home. It's your safe place for
yeah,
all of us. And
yeah.
I feel that way about all of the musicians that I've worked with throughout my life, and other actors, and that we all felt different in some way. And even though I never had the introvert, which it's funny for me with you because I don't know you that way, as an introvert at all.
Mhm.
And I wasn't that, but it didn't feel, I was a swimmer. Oh, I love this story. I've told this in a cabaret I did. I remember Sony Walkmans. I had my Sony Walkman on.
Me too.
And we would wear them as swimmers. You wear them right before you go on because I was a distance swimmer and you want a rhythm. So I would have to do my high school was a 20 lap race. College was 66.
Ooh,
So that's me. I have endurance. And so I would want to get like a good rhythm of whatever it was. And everybody else, because this is in the 80s, everyone else, they're listening to, and I loved U2. I loved all of, I was just talking because I just posted something about the Pointer Sisters because Bonnie Pointer had, I loved all of that music, but I was obsessed with musical theater. And they called me rock and roll because my last name's Rock. And they'd always call me rock and roll. Hey, rock and roll, what are you listening to? And I'd be like, Les Mis. And they're like, Les Mis. And I was like, it's a musical about the French Revolution written by Victor Hugo. And they're like, okay, because there was something about, and it is right now too, during One Day More, da 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 da, and that would raise my heart rate for me to go swim. So that was one of my songs that I would use. Where again, everybody else is playing this hard rock, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna use, So that was my. So I fit in with the swimmers, but I loved the music. Listening to musicals and had like both parts of me constant, like this, not a conflict, not a major conflict, but just feeling at home when I could sing and when I could express myself that way as well.
That's awesome. I love that story. And it's funny because I've worked as a cabaret singer too. And I think pulling on those moments in our life is what kind of makes cabaret a special kind of art form, because people get to know you as a person. We did have a question a minute ago. Somebody wanted to know if anybody else in your family is a singer.
No, and that my dad could sing. He's the only one that really had great pitch, although my brother does, but he wouldn't sing. My dad worked for General Motors. He started out on the line at GM. And ended up as a union rep, but I can hear him. He died when he died 15. It's been 15 years ago. He was only 57. He was very young, but I can hear his voice when we would take family trips to Florida, and that he had great pitch, but he never. Nobody pursued it. No one else in my family pursued it. No one else has. There's no one. I have a cousin who, on my grandma's side, like a few, down in the family, that plays piano and taught some, but I was never influenced by a family member. I was the only one. So they didn't know what to do with me.
It's so funny because we have parallel lives in some way, because I was the same way. It's like, I sometimes thought, was I like some weird alien changeling?
Yeah. I'm like, because you get things from family members. You're like, who had this? Like,
really? Where did I come from?
Can you help me? I'm like, somebody help me how to sing. They're like, I don't know. And God bless them. They went out. A friend of theirs had a guitar that he never used. And so I had this amazing, I still have it and I still love it because I have small hands I'm 5'10", but I have small hands for my body. So I have a small neck guitar. And this Epiphone that they gave me, this guy played it once. So I got to go into college with this amazing guitar for me. I was so proud of that because my parents got it from their friend who had never played it. And again, that's the family I come from, the town I come from. It's like, oh, your kid's into singing? Well, I have this guitar, so give it to her. And it was like everybody was behind me and so proud of me.
That is so cool.
Pride in that. Yeah.
So once you had your music degree, and music therapy. And really quickly, for people out there who are listening who don't know what music therapy is, explain music therapy. just in general?
It's funny. My friends that are music therapists that have seen my show say I run my show like a music therapy session. So the focus is on the group. So it's a creation. You're using music to facilitate. My teacher would love me right now. For communication, academic, motor, emotional, and social skills. You're helping, right, populations from children with autism to senior citizens, but music is the medium of the therapy.
Okay.
So the focus is not that they sing well, it's that you're communicating with music, and that's the focus of it because it's so unspoken. Cool. Music elicits all those emotions, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right? Which we know, music, the language that when you can't express it, you can express it through music, and you can put your finger on it.
Yeah. So yeah, because it's amazing, even something, and actually even more so music that has no lyrics to it.
Yeah.
Lately, as I've been working from home and doing stuff at home, I've been playing channels on Spotify. And the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've been focusing on composers that I really love. So I've just been listening to Rachmaninoff a lot. And Vaughan Williams, who was another one of my favorite composers. So the last 3 or 4 days, I've been like 100% listening to Ralph Vaughan Williams. And if people out there don't know Vaughan Williams' work, it's astonishing and very specific. When you hear his work, you know it's his work. But just hearing something like that will suddenly make me cry or make me happy.
Yeah, same. I that's so funny. We lived these parallel lives. I remember my music therapy teacher saying, because I loved Mozart, and he was like, and he questioned me. He's like, Mozart, why Mozart? And I said, I would go to the store every week. When I would get my allowance, I would go. I had no influence. My family didn't listen to classical music, to opera. I had a family in town that she was a senior when I was a sophomore. She was a swimmer. Her parents went to operas and things like that. They took me to my first opera. They took me to see Aida.
Wow.
And I wept, I absolutely wept. And so I would take my allowance money and go buy, remember, tapes? And you can see them behind me. If you see tapes, because it's the only place there's a tape player in the basement. And I had them, and I was like, why wouldn't I have them out? Of course I have them out.
Yes, you did.
And I would buy Mozart. Well, back then they were like $1. They would be 50 cents for these tapes. And I would listen to them, and I had never heard that music before. And I was so moved by it. I bought everything. I have Liszt, I have Chopin, I had everything. And so when I got to school and then studied about them and heard about their lives, I was like, Mozart had everything. He did everything. And so I had to explain this to my teacher about how I would listen to this, and then I would swim, and what each song would do for me, what each thing would raise or lower. And he's like, oh, so you do understand music therapy. And I was like, I do. And he said, music evokes those emotions. And so I helped a woman who was dying. That was my specialty, was the separation process, is what you would call that. And she was dying, and her daughter was trying to get there. And I played a song for her on my guitar and was singing with her to try to steady her heart rate. And I was fortunate enough to do that long enough to keep it steady. And her daughter got there. I gently left the room, and she was able to be with her while she died. Oh. And I was 23, like when I was so young. And that power of music that way, and how it's our rhythm. It's the rhythm of so I love any classical music like that. It was because it does, and you go somewhere else. Yeah. And I would take that, put it in my Sony Walkman, and go walk around my town. And again, everyone else is listening, but I was so moved by all music. Everything was just this new world to me.
My friend Valerie is watching our stream today, and she just posted this comment.
Oh, cool. Absolutely, Valerie. That sounds great.
Yeah, I don't know that movie, so I'll have to check it out.
I've never heard of that. And let's be honest, aren't we all looking for anything new right now?
Yeah.
That we haven't seen?
I've watched all of Netflix, so I need something new now.
How much Netflix have you watched? All of it.
All of it. It's like, I finished the internet. What can I do now?
The movies I ever made, I've watched them all.
So a question. So when you graduated and you left college, what was your first, how did you move into the industry, or what was your first job?
My first job, there was a woman that I lived, we had interns where I did music therapy in California. The interns that I lived with, one of them had a friend, such a great story, in Minnesota. And she said, oh, I know Minnesota has good theater, and it's the Midwest. It's where you're from, the Midwest. And I'm sure they have jobs. I literally flew there during my internship, interviewed, got the job, and moved there in January. So that tells you withstand the cold like nobody. January of 19, I'm totally happy to reveal my age. January of 93. And I auditioned. I love this. I auditioned for 3 things. The first thing I auditioned for was Minnesota Opera. And I mean nothing but love for them about this, but I am a rare vocal type in opera. I'm a dramatic mezzo. Yeah. At the age of 23, about to be 24, a dramatic mezzo, most of them, like Azucena in Il Trovatore, right? That's older. So I auditioned, and I had a great audition. They're like, see you in 10 years, kid. And I was like, what? Like, studied what? So that didn't go well. The next thing was Barefoot in the Park, and I got called back for the lead. I didn't get that. Then the next thing, and I remember this, I sang I Dreamed a Dream from Les Mis. I literally got, I dreamed a dream in time gone by, when hope was high and life worth living. Thank you. Great. Back then we had just phones, right? And answering machines. I get home, and maybe 20 minutes later, yes, we'd like to offer you the part of the baker's wife. So I got to play it a second time.
Wow.
And cool. That was it. From there on, that was in 93. I went from that in Minneapolis, St. Paul area to, I remember I did the Mikado. I did Heidi Chronicles. And then I got my first 2 years in 96. I got my first equity show. So pretty quickly, that's pretty fast.
Yeah, that is fast.
I didn't turn equity, but I had that. Kevin McCollum ran the Ordway in St. Paul. And Kevin McCollum, if you know, is the producer of Rent. In the Heights, Chaperone, Drowsy Chaperone, all of that. And he was the president of the theater at the time. And so I had this incredible experience, and was singing all the time, doing cabarets, learned how to do cabaret from a friend. She taught me all about it and encouraged me. And Leslie Ball she has the longest running late night cabaret in the country in Minneapolis. And she encouraged me, and I started writing. Well, in 97, Tommy, 96 is when I wrote it. And I have submitted to the Bryant Lake Bowl. And it is exactly what you think it is. It's a bowling alley with a 99-seat theater in it.
Okay.
You can't beat that. That's the coolest thing.
That is cool.
And people out there in Minneapolis, St. Paul know this place. It's a great place. So I proposed a Carpenters show it was a multimedia thing. And they picked it up. I hadn't written it yet.
Oh, I've been there.
So you talk about getting a fire lit. And I just read the Ray Coleman book about the Carpenters, and I was obsessed. I'm reading all this stuff. I'm going through everything. And I'm that person that as I write, I have to think and read. And I let it marinate for a very long time. I sat down in one night and wrote what turned into that show.
Okay.
And it ran in May of 97, and we sold it out completely. It was again, very multimedia. I played the Karen that saw herself my size her whole life, always saw herself. And there was a woman who was shorter, smaller, and just very tiny in what Karen became. And so I sang the whole time. And this woman, as the show went on, spoke more and more and more, because that illness part of her came out. And that's what it was but that was not something that would tour. That wasn't something that would have worked necessarily. And I moved to Chicago in moved to into the Illinois area in 97, 98, and then moved up to Chicago in 99, and kept pursuing theater and kept pursuing music. And I wasn't getting cast in all the things I wanted to get cast in, right? I'm, 5'10", and would walk in and be like, "Thank you," and I'm like, "Oh, this is not fun." And so it encouraged me to write.
Mhm.
And I kept writing and writing. And then I had done a show at Metropolis in Arlington Heights. And it was called Sentimental Journey, all about my grandparents' journey. And that was the music. And I told their story. And I sold it out very quickly. Another one I sold out very quickly. And they came to me, gosh, probably a month after that, when they were starting their new season, and said, "Do you have anything else?" And I said, "You know what? I've always wanted to do the Carpenters, but just the concert version, like just their music, but tell their stories, but relate it to me as well. Like I want," and it's the show you see now. So it's all about their music and them. And we sold out a month ahead. We were sold out a month before it even opened. And I was so encouraged by that, right? I didn't know. I had written 15 other shows prior to that and didn't know which one was going to hit. And so I was like, well, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. And I just went after it with my whole heart. And here we are 10 years later. So
That's amazing.
yeah.
When did you bring the Christmas show into the lineup?
It's funny because I thought about it right away. I thought I can't do the Close to You show the whole season because again, I give Metropolis so much credit for that because I saw how a season was booked. Like I see how you book a season. You see how things are. And I said, what are the Christmas shows and holiday shows that you have the choices of? It's a pretty short list, right?
Yeah, very short.
So I thought, what do I listen to every year is the Carpenters Christmas. And I thought if I can make a show out of that, we can work all year round. Mm-hmm. And we get to bring these two albums and their Christmas special to life somehow. And I thought then I'm helping create work for myself. So I really was very thoughtful about that. Mm-hmm. And knew that if I offered something else along with that, and I considered it like a companion show. And because that came in 2012. I played your place in 2012 with the Close to You show that September, but we did the Carpenters Christmas at Metropolis that Christmas. We did 2 shows there, and then it started going from there. Well, the last 3 years alone, we've played probably 40 Christmas shows. We're playing 10 to 15 Christmas shows a season.
Wow.
Because people want to come back every year and see it every year.
So do you find that that venues will book the Christmas show without having already booked the other one, or is it usually
no?
One?
And isn't that funny? Because I thought it would be the other way around.
Yeah.
And it's gotten more where they say, "Oh yeah, we'll do the Close to You show at some point, but I really need Christmas," because people are lacking in choices for Christmas.
Well, I get that because no offense, I'm going to irritate people by saying this, but I never need to see another Nutcracker. Even though I have written my own version of Christmas Carol, and I love my version. It's a 1-person Christmas Carol.
I like that idea.
Yeah, at some point I'll tell you about it. It's an awesome show.
Right now in this day and age, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, but it's a great show. But I mean, literally, who needs another Christmas Carol? Who needs another Nutcracker? Please give us something else. And so the last few years for Christmas, as a presenter, I've really had to kind of dig to find different things that that are unusual but also appealing to the general audience, because I just can't go that traditional route anymore. I feel like I need to do something different. So.
And isn't it interesting, because right after that I noticed, and I don't consider this my influence, I'm just saying I noticed then that other artists were thinking the same thing. I always feel like when you put something out into the world, we talk about energy, right? When you put energy into the world, that everyone, we feel each other. We feel each other. I mean, look at us now. We feel each other. We're all feeling one another in a way that we probably never have, in my lifetime, since I've been here. And I see so many other artists with Christmas shows that are doing Christmas shows now. And, that maybe didn't before, because like Kenny Rogers, you think about him, Kenny Rogers had a Christmas show. There's Motown Christmas, right? And anyone that's had a Christmas album, is able to create a Christmas show out of that with their pop, because I make sure we still do a few of the pop hits as well.
Sure.
It's almost a teaser to get them to bring the Close to You show.
Hey, come on, it's smart. Let's go.
I'm not dumb. I know, I have, I want to keep us working. I have a few years left in me on the road. So
yeah, it's funny is I interviewed my good friend Jim Witter a couple of weeks ago, and Jim has 9 different shows, but he's genius because when he's in a venue, especially one where he's sold out and the audience is loving him, at the end of his show, before he finishes his show, he will always do a number from the next show that he has written that he's trying to sell in the next season. And then finish his show and then do an encore. But then invariably people will come up to me in the lobby going, oh my gosh, that song he's sang, you must book that other show. It's like genius marketing.
Oh, he's great. I'm taking note, Jim.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, yeah. It's funny. Something you mentioned earlier made me kind of laugh because the whole concept of cabaret, and in your case, both cabaret and writing shows, really for me came from exactly the same place. I reached a point in my theater career where I was between age groups that were castable. I was too old. I was too old now for the juvenile leads, the Twinkie roles. But I always look younger than my age, so I was too young looking for any father roles or or the older roles. So I'm stuck in this limbo land of nobody will cast me in anything because I don't fit. So I said, well, I'll just go create my own show. I'm like,
and that was it. That was good. And I admire that. I watched, and I again give my friend Leslie Ball so much credit for that, because it was realizing that I didn't study theater like that. So I didn't. And how do you study cabaret in the set? Like, there's not a cabaret program.
No.
There's not something that's teaching that. And for me, I thought, and first of all, tall women problems of being 5'10" and walking in for a role, knowing which role I was right for, and then walking past the men and going, okay, well, that's not going to, seeing that there was not someone that happened, happened. And when I turned equity, I remember going to some of those auditions and being like, can I request a height thing? Is there like, can I just not come if we don't have the height for the gentleman? Because, there would be, I will never forget this. I had a casting director actually stand up at the audition. I sang, I think 5 songs. And after the 5th song, I was like, what is he doing? He stood up to see what the height was. He was actually in the show to see what his height was against me. I did not get cast. And when I saw the show, they were not taller than him. So I went, okay. So he enjoyed my voice very much. Thanks. But that was not. And so those were those moments that I obviously I remember those very clearly, that I thought, I'm going to have to do my own thing probably, because this isn't where, and I'm proud though that I had the nerve to do that, because I think we have to find a way to make our own work if it's not there. And the world is open to us,
you know what? Something you said a minute ago, I'm like, you and I should just come up with a course about like how to do a cabaret show and find somebody who will hire us to teach it. Because,
let's do it.
I've got ideas. I know you have ideas. So we'll talk later.
Hey, listen, we've got this online forum. I want to be hopeful about when we're performing again, but we might not be for a little while, in the way that we have been. So I am open to anything. Let's propose it.
Honestly, you're right. And we know a lot of people who teach in theater programs and music programs in our area, because for those of you who are watching, I live in the western suburbs of Chicago, and Lisa lives in the northwestern suburbs of Chicago. So we're kind of both in the, outside of the city, but close to the city. Yeah. And Valerie just chimed in. Did you see her comment?
Yes. Yeah, Valerie, I understand. One of my bandmates, we love Come From Away. And she said, oh, I always think about you, with Me in the Sky. And I said, yeah, it's a great song, but she does actually talk about being like 5'0", and that didn't really work for me. It's not going to come off well. You're not going to cast me in that part, but I love the song and I can sing it in a cabaret, but I'm not going to get to do the show.
You know, exactly. So first I'm going to say my friend Jody, who is helping us behind the scenes tonight, says that you and I should do a cabaret show together. And I think she's right.
Oh,
so,
yes, we'd be so good together.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we'll talk about that too, because it's time for me to put a new show together. There you go. But yeah, I feel like it's time for me to put another show together. I haven't written a cabaret show for myself in about 3 years now.
Oh, I have ideas. So we'll talk offline because this will be our secret reveal later.
There you go. Yeah, and Valerie says she'll sign up for our cabaret class. Hey, if we can do a virtual version. Valerie, honestly, in full disclosure, Valerie doesn't really need it because she's really talented, but that's okay. So,
well, we could all hang out together then and just sing together.
That's all right, but that's all right. Yeah, we'll happily have you in the class. Yeah. So, oh, I totally lost track of something I was going to say, but looking at the sort of trajectory of the Carpenters show. So you, for everybody, most of the people who were watching probably already know you do the Carpenters Christmas. When in the process of touring that show and traveling around the country, did you get the idea that you would like to start representing other artists as well? Because that's the newest part of your career. That's
brand new. Right as this happened. So it's going well. And it's been a while, and it's other people, other friends, Ron and Melissa that Ron and Melissa Giattino from Epic Arts Management that have 2 on tap.
Yep.
They started doing it much earlier than I did, and were always encouraging me. And I said, "Oh, I'm just too busy. I don't want to. I have my son. I want to, I don't want to work harder." And as soon as I started talking about it, including you, because I know I bounced it off of you, and you were like, "Oh yeah, totally. Look, I trust you." And you just said it. You said, "Well, I trust you. I know you're musicians, so I know somebody to represent would already be excellent. So of course I'd at least give them a look." And I was like, "Oh, I wonder if everybody else feels that way. Tommy's my friend. Nobody else will feel that way." And then I kept talking to people, and they all were like, "Yeah, of course. Your show's excellent. You're not going to hire someone that you don't already vet and think they're amazing." Yeah. And I right away thought, because I wrote an 80s show, and I thought, I want to do an 80s show. That's huge. The 80s are huge. My son knows the 80s songs, and it's not all because of me. His classmates know the 80s. And so that was my first thing. And then I thought, well, I want to work with people I've worked with that I know, that I love, and I trust them, because that's a big thing representing someone. You want to trust what they're doing. But my main purpose was, it's such a, I don't have a problem revealing you want to get to know me a little better. It's not always easy doing what we do. And you lose, I'm not in theater anymore. So I'm not around my peers as much. I see them at the conferences. When you tour, you're just with your band, but I'm the only lead singer in my band. Right? It's just me. Not that my other singers aren't lead singers in their own bands.
Yeah, no.
But I'm the only one out front. And so I want other people to get to experience what I get to experience. Like, I love what I do so much. And I feel like other people deserve to get to see what I get to see. I've traveled this amazing country. I've played these venues where all of our heroes have played. And I get to sing music that I adore. So that's really what it was. So one of my singers that's done backup for me, Tina Napinelli, has a Carole King show called Tapestry Unraveled. That was a no-brainer. My other friend, Mark Sanders, has a show, One Voice, the music of Barry Manilow. I met him, we don't know how many years. We're trying to figure that out, right? Try to figure that out. He's absolutely incredible. Natalie Cordone is has sung with me as well, but is an amazing singer on her own. I have a Stephen Eady show with her and Sean Kilgore. So it just happened. Like, these were people that I said, and they're like, "Would you rep me?" And I was like, "Yeah, well, why wouldn't I? Of course I would. Your show's amazing. I'd love to." Like, "Me? Really?" And they're like, "Yeah, everybody, everybody, and people trust you." And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to do that. And I love so much what we do."
Yeah.
And so that's kind of made its way over, now I'm Lisa Rock Entertainment. And it was funny because we were at, what was the last retreat that we did? We were in Fort Lauderdale.
Fort Lauderdale. Yeah.
And I was with Laurel, with some other artists, some other agents. So I don't want to be too familiar, saying I was with, but I was with some other agents, and we were talking, and fairly, we had all had a few glasses of wine at our retreat.
Oh, really? Wait.
I,
Sip of that.
and I said, well, what would I call it? And they laughed. And Robin Klinger is the one who actually laughed the hardest. She goes, really? Because she's Robin Klinger, right? It's Robin Klinger Entertainment. She goes,
Yeah.
do you know your last name? And she said it. She's the one, do you know your last name? And I was like, oh, yeah, I have the best. She goes, you have the best last name, and it's your name. And I was like, oh, heck yeah, it's Lisa Rock Entertainment. So it was that nonchalant at that moment.
And I can actually hear Robin Klinger's voice in the back of my head right now.
Do you know your name?
Oh, it's funny because I've had a lot of people say to me that, when I'm sick of being a presenter, that I should be an agent. And largely because of the same idea that people know me.
Anything, Tommy.
Unfortunately, I frigging hate selling things.
No.
I hate selling things. I can't sell anything. I can sell me. That's all I can sell.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that, because your shows, are you kidding me? Like everything that you do, I love the shows that you do so much. And you've introduced me to so many new artists because of that. Even when I can't come, I at least look at your season and follow the links to them, because you have such an eclectic, amazing, diverse group of people that you bring in, and all of these artists. And you sell, and I know you say not every seat, but I think you sell everything out that you do. It's just
not everything, but
pretty close to me. But I don't know. I just look at, I love what you bring, to your community, and I feel like you have helped expand your audience. You've helped expand your audience's mind and maybe what they would see or not see. So I don't. That's just
Thank you. That's really my goal. And the things that sell out, and the things that don't really don't. So I don't have any mediocre shows. Either they sell out. They're all high quality shows. Either they sell out or they tank with ticket sales, but they're all good shows. The ones that tank aren't because they aren't good shows. It's because I haven't figured out how to get the audience to risk going to some.
Give up on that, which I appreciate. I wanted to ask you this because I got to see Hina's show at College of DuPage. So,
and for everybody who's watching, this is a show about India. What is it? Bollywood. It's a Bollywood show.
It's a lot of the history and with her, with Diana Martinez at College of DuPage, with Wethlin at College of Lake County, and do the three of you have a conversation about your seasons?
Yes.
You talk about, because you're so similar in your presenting styles to me, of having such a it's just I want to know your process. I want to know how the three of you, I want to be in the room where it happens.
So in the room where it happens. So there are all of us in the state who are presenters are in a consortium called the Illinois Presenters Network. And I'm the chair of that network. And Leslie Rodriguez from Dominican is the vice chair. Kevin Maynard, Brian Lynch, who is retiring from North Central, and Roland Raffel, who works with Diana at College of DuPage, and Lloyd Kirby are on the board. And Lloyd is now in southern Illinois. And Kevin is in the Quad Cities area. So, but anyway, do what?
Where did Lloyd end up?
Oh, he's now doing marketing for a theater in further south, and I can't remember which theater it is.
I'll have to have I talked to him after after Central. Yeah.
Central, yeah. So he's found another gig. But but anyway, so as people in the consortium, we all talk to each other, and the ones of us who I think have the closest conversations in our area are Lana Rogachevskaya from Governor's State, me, Leslie Rodriguez from Dominican, Diana from College of DuPage, Steve Ducro at Elgin, and Gwethlyn Bronner at College of Lake County. A lot of the rest of us also talk, but that group tends to be the most consistent in how we communicate with each other. And Chuck Saby from the Village of Park Forest as well. So Chuck is often in these conversations. So Chuck and Lana and I are the 3 presenters on the South Side of Chicago. So we South and Southwest. So we talk a lot, and we actually meet and we share our seasons with each other way before we present them to anyone else. Everybody else, we talk at all the conferences. And so, as we start to look at shows that we're really interested in, we have to have conversations with each other about certain types of shows, because some of them cannot be done. Like Diana did that show. I could not have done that show on the same weekend, because the audience is coming from a wide range, not from a very narrow audience. Like Leslie Rodriguez and I can do the same show on the same weekend, even though we're geographically kind of close to each other. It's not pulling from the city, because she's in River Forest, I'm in Palos Hills. Her audience is primarily from Oak Park. Mine is primarily from the area surrounding the college. They're not overlapping.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And we have those conversations. Gwethlyn and I have the most similar theaters of all people. They're almost identical in size.
Yep.
Demographically, pretty similar as well.
Yeah.
College of DuPage is a much bigger space, and she has multiple theaters, so she can do a lot more. She has a bigger budget, so she can do things that we cannot do by virtue of her budget and the size of her theater. But we all do talk to each other. We talk at Arts Midwest when that conference happens, and we all meet at APAP in New York in January as well. We have a very active listserv where we bounce ideas off of each other.
Yeah, I love it. I feel very proud of, what you all do, just because I feel like there's, just because I've had the opportunity to see things that I wouldn't necessarily have the opportunity to see, because of that you're bringing things in that when I go to the conferences and I'm like, oh, please somebody do that so I can see that full show. Because we get the showcases where we get 15 minutes of something. I'm like, that's amazing. On the road, I don't get to see anything. So I know when I'm home, I'm like, oh, which one of you has something I could come and see?
I totally get it. I mean, that's the downside of what we do, is that these other theaters are very often doing shows that I'm like, oh, I really want to see that show, but I have a show that same night.
Exactly.
So I can't blow off my own theater to go see a show at Diana's unless it's something at my theater that really, like, we book Second City every year at our theater, and we're up for 30 something years. I don't need to see another Second City show. And and it's an easy show to create. So that if I'm going to blow off a show, it's probably going to be something like that I can trust to the staff to handle it without me. And then I may be able, but most shows I can't. I really need to be there. And if nothing else, I need to be there to walk out on stage and introduce myself and say thank you for coming, so that I'm the public face of that theater. I think
you all, and it's so funny because I've played all 3, and I've played with Diana, I've played with Gweth and Chuck at Freedom Hall, and Illinois Central College we've played as well. But with you all are very present that way with your theaters. Mm-hmm. And I love that. That's something for us because you're seeing it and it doesn't feel like, oh, he booked it and then he's, you go out and wave your hat and leave. It's like you're present and part of the experience for us as well. And that's why that is this part of our family that I feel like we appreciate.
And it's funny. I didn't realize that was unusual until a couple of years ago. I had a show booked it's an extraordinary show that I had only seen video of. I had never seen the full show, and it was in Iowa 3 weeks before I had it. So I drove to the venue in Iowa to see that show in a very large, beautiful venue, and the director wasn't there. Nobody did a curtain speech. The show was fantastic, but the person who booked it wasn't even there for this amazing performance that was part of a huge grant-funded project that I was part of. And I thought to myself, I talked to the artists afterwards. And first of all, the artists had not met me before, but they met me backstage and they're like, wait, we're coming to your venue in 3 weeks. I said, yeah. They said, you drove all the way over here just to see us? I went, yes. Why wouldn't I? They're like, people don't do that. I'm like, really?
Yeah, there's venues we've played where they have a recording or the backstage person will use the God mic or whatever it is. And I appreciate so much. And again, I get people are busy, but it's what we have in our family of presenters and artists, those places are so special to us. So it means a lot to us to have
and I think
the whole thing.
I think we all have those pre-recorded announcements for when we can't be there. There's time when I'm sick or if I'm on vacation or something. And if we have shows sometimes in two different venues in our theater, I can't be in two places at once. So we
Correct. Absolutely. But and it's no ding to the people who don't do it. So, but it is something that's an extra special, because we talk about, and we're coming up, we would have played it 2 weeks ago. We would have played our 300th show. So we're just a few away from our 300th. We had to stop. And so of course, I remember every venue down to the dressing room. No, I don't. How could I? It's impossible, right? Yeah. So there are things that you remember. I remember the first time we were with you, you had this amazing buffet dinner for us that was incredible. It was so good. But there's little special things that people do for us. There's a venue in North Carolina. I can't tell the guys we were there, but I can say, remember those pimento cheese sandwiches and that they brought the homemade soup, and you remember the dessert? Oh yeah, that was North Carolina. And I'm like, yeah, all right, there. We remember things by the food. So special things. I'm like, yeah, remember that guy who came back and he took us over afterwards. He went and had a drink with us or hung out with us. Those are special moments. Because you're on the road sometimes. I've leaned over at breakfast to a total stranger and said, "What city are we in?" And they're like, "You're in Oklahoma City, darling." I was like, "Fantastic. Okay, great." Yeah. We've been on the road too long.
It's so funny. I have to tell you, it's because I have been a touring artist before, early in my career in the theater. And me, for people who don't know who are watching this, I have a side gig as a restaurant reviewer. And I have my own website called tableforoneplease.com, and I'm totally food obsessed. And if you follow me on Instagram, it's all food porn.
Which is great. You have the best food stuff. I have such envy for the plate. I'm like, can I get that food tonight?
Which is why I'm obsessed with making sure that we have great food for artists when we feed artists, because it doesn't take any more effort to get good food than to get really bad food. Nope. And also it's funny because some of my predecessors did not include our staff into the meals. And I'm like, that's stupid. So, when I started working there 12 and a half years ago, I started including our staff into all of the food.
Which we love. We taught, and I remember because they started to go somewhere else and we were like, where are you going? They're like, well, we're going to go. I'm like, no, you're going to eat it here with us. Like, you're part of us. We're theater people too. We get it. We love getting to know other people because we're with each other all the time. We still love each other, but we're our own family. So we like to get to know everybody else too.
Yeah. At some point, you should talk to David Wannen from the New York Gilbert and Sullivan Players, because he has people in his large company who still talk about me and our theater because they're vegan. And I used to be vegan a long time ago. And so I would go out when they would come and perform for us and buy special vegan meals for those 7 or 8 people myself and bring them in while everybody else was setting up the big giant buffet that we had catered in. I would set up a separate buffet over to the side for all the vegan people. but I've been there when I was vegan. It was hard. It was hard to eat.
It is. And to find good things on the road too. That's the other thing, is when you find good food and somebody brings you good food when you're traveling, is if you don't know places like that and you get that, it's amazing,
Yeah. And I was vegan in the late 90s when it was impossible to be vegan. It'd be much easier today. But now I'm fine. Give me bacon all day long. I'm good. Yeah. But sorry, vegan people. I know I just made a bunch of vegan people and vegetarians cringe.
Oh, they're mad at it. It's okay.
So we're running low on time. I just wanted to see if there was anything that you wanted to talk about that we hadn't talked about tonight. Oh, and my friend Jane put a really nice comment up.
Let me put the glasses on. I like that. That's very nice, Jane. Thank you. To talk about what's going on, I think, with the virus and with the protests and everything, and I agree with that. I think you've had a very diverse, I think you have a very diverse audience. You have a very diverse season all the time. And I don't know. I'm thinking about a million things. I'm thinking about us when we were in high school, Tommy. I think you and I talked about this. I remember the song with Stevie, was it Van Zant and U2, Not Gonna Play Sun City?
Yes, yes.
So I was looking through my book of Stephen Biko, Cry Freedom, that Donald Woods brought back from South Africa, Malcolm X, like all of these books and all of these things. And I cried earlier. I'm going to try my best, that it's this many years later and that we haven't changed enough, and so my heart's been very heavy, and I always try to find the positive. I know you do too, about things. We try to find that. And so as I was crying, because I was looking at the BCOB book, and I have all these things underlined because I was obsessed in high school and reading all of those things, and thinking, what art will come from this? What art is going to come from this? I don't want to fast forward because I have a son who's 11 and I'm appreciating every moment, but there's a part of me that I want to see 10 years down the road, what art is going to be made from this, and what we're going to look like as theater, as music, as all of this. What are we going to look like? Because I feel that collective energy that I want to believe that this is a positive change for all of us.
And I remember just fighting through the AIDS crisis.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to cry now.
Yeah, I know. So the protest, every time I see it, every protest I see, everything I see, it's not a bad trigger, but it is a trigger of what we've gone through already and where we're not.
And I think about the art that came out of that. And thought, okay, there was, during the crisis itself, there was art and then there's been art since, and it's led to so many other things. It's, it doesn't negate all the pain, but I think in a way it sort of explicates that pain. It sort of puts it out there. And sometimes I think you just need to put your raw truth out there and just let people react the way they're going to react to it. Because you follow me on Facebook, that this is day 83. I've been writing a blog post every day about my experience being in quarantine. For those people who are watching, I am quarantining by myself in an apartment. Now I'm lucky because my apartment is big enough that it's not like in New York where you have 400 square feet and you can't move. But being alone for this long is tough, even if you are more introverted. And, I've had ups and downs, but I realized early on that I was not going to edit that blog. I was not going to edit. I was going to write exactly what came out of my head. And there have been some that I had people actually call me saying, "Are you okay? Do I need to intervene?" I'm like, "No, I'm not suicidal. I'm fine. I'm just having a really bad day." And I had to be honest about it. So I've been struggling with all those same things this week. I love
that, though. I love that. And I think that's what, I know people have as many feelings as you and I have. There's that many, there's millions of feelings out there of things going on. And what I feel like I can contribute, what I can say is that I'm proud of everybody expressing those. I feel like that's what I can say.
Yeah.
That I can call myself an ally all I want. That's not the point of the protest. It's not about me.
No.
So it's about that. I am proud of everyone expressing themselves, whatever it is, because we deserve to have a safe space. We all deserve, the world deserves a safe space to express what they're going through. And I feel like me, and of course, because I'm on stage all the time, of tying it up in my mind is I can't wait to see that art that comes through the pain, because you can't express that as artists, the artists that I'm listening to express their pain. It's going to come out through their art as well. Right now, it's their words on social media and their words at protests, but it's going to be art too. And I'm anxiously awaiting that, but again, not wanting to push fast forward on anything, because we have to go through this to get to the other side of what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's, the art is happening. It's already happening,
Yeah.
but it's the art of protest, which is a different kind of art than that sort of art of what I consider that art of reconciliation, or the art of, I don't know, it's hard to even express it, but there's so many different levels to it. And I think you're right. I don't want to fast forward anything, because we need to go through everything that we're going through. But at the same time, I think, like, I try to keep a positive outlook about things. And I feel like it's important to keep looking forward to, where do we want to be? What's our goal?
Yeah. And I think if we embrace each other, if we, that's, I've always had such a peaceful heart, that it's killing me, and I've talked about this, that I saw the meme that said, check on your friends who hug, because they're not okay.
That would be me. I'm not okay. I'm a very huggy person.
Everybody, even the people that are mad or might be mad at me, I want to hug them all, because I feel like there's so much pain, and I have so much love in my heart, and I want everybody to feel loved right now. I want everyone to feel how loved everyone is, even through all of this pain. And, I don't know if you had a chance to watch the funeral today.
No, I did.
The music. I mean, I wept. I wept. I wept as a mom, I wept as an equal age, we're in the same age group. I wept. And the music just, for me, that in a funeral, you weren't, I grew up in church, and, when there's certain songs, and I was like, okay, and I just said, and that I needed that moment, for not just for George Floyd. I needed that moment for myself too, to openly weep, because we all have so much to weep. And I feel like going through that. But as soon as, music in a service, for me, I remember that when my dad passed, as soon as a song started, I'm like, and I'm there.
Oh,
I'm there. And there's the waterworks, and my shirt was wet, and I just let it flow.
For both of my parents and my grandmother, I remember all three of those funerals vividly. It was the music, because I'm a musician, and the funerals were all in that church that I grew up in, that we talked about. I was in the choir, so I was used to singing in that church, and I was asked to sing at all three of those funerals. And I'm like, are you smoking crack? There's no way. I'm not going to sing at my own mother's funeral. I couldn't get three notes out.
I did. I sang at my dad's.
Oh, I couldn't do it.
It was the one thing he asked. And he said right before he went into where he was kind of in a coma, the last 2 weeks of his life, he said, I talk about it in my Christmas show, my Carpenters Christmas show, because I sing the Ave, and because Aaron sang it. And he said, the thing I feel like I did best in my life was your voice. And he said, I want you to honor me at my funeral. And so I did, but I knelt. I was in the balcony, I grew up Catholic. And so his body was in the front at the pulpit, and I was in the back. And when it came time to sing the song, my voice, I don't need a microphone. I knelt and sang it, because I couldn't look at his casket and get through it. But when I got done, and here's the thing, I've never ridden in a limo before. The first time I rode in a limo was at my dad's funeral.
Mine. It was my dad's funeral too, actually.
So 1999. When I cried. I hadn't cried yet.
Yep.
But when I got into, and I knew I could, because I was done singing, is when I let the waterworks just flow at that point. So, and it felt like that today. I had that like moment of, because there's so much, and I'm trying to keep it together for my family, for life, for, and I let myself cry. I feel like the earth cried today.
I think so.
So it did in Chicagoland, right? It rained every bit of.
And during this interview, we had like massive storms pass over. I don't know if anybody heard them, because I've got a nice directional microphone. I have this Blue Yeti microphone that I bought.
Nice.
But so I've had several people to end tonight. Would you be willing to sing anything for us tonight?
Oh yeah. Does anyone have a request of a favorite? Do you have a favorite?
Like a favorite song?
Yeah, does anybody have a favorite like moment that Carpenters thing they want to hear? I have all of mine.
Oh, let's see.
I know. Anybody? I'll let anyone pick if
Close to you.
Close to you. Yeah. Tommy,
Yeah.
I'm looking at, I love, oh, yes. Oh, now I'm going to cry. I haven't sung it. Why do birds suddenly appear every time that you're near? And just like me, they long to be close to you. Why do stars fall down from the sky every time you walk by? And just like me, they long to be close to you. On the day that you were born, the angels got together and decided to create a dream come true. So they sprinkled moon dust in your hair of gold and starlight in your eyes of blue. That is why all the girls in town follow you all around. Just like me, they long to be close to you. Now everybody, why?
Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome. You're welcome. That gets me every time. My son is, for those of you out there, I don't share pictures of him just for privacy's sake, but my son is blonde hair and blue eyes, so I think of him every single time I sing that with the moon dust in his hair, the hair of gold and starlight in his eyes of blue. So, and you've met him, Tommy, you know, he's just an angel baby. So
he's kind of a hot ticket, I have to say. He's going to be a handful. He already is a handful.
Yeah, but he is. Oh my goodness, he's 5. He grew. He's 5'2". He's 11 and 5'2". I am gonna have to buy. I'm never gonna leave the road because he eats more than this whole household. So.
Well, so everybody knows, I had a beautiful Christmas day experience because I live alone and Christmas is kind of depressing for me. So I went over to Lisa's house for Christmas.
Yes, it was wonderful. We had guests and had a wonderful time. We had a house full. We had a wonderful day, didn't we? What a day.
I had a great time. So you know, once we're done with the quarantining, social distancing thing, Lisa and her family are coming to my house for dinner.
Yes, we are.
Her son has demanded that he gets to be my sous chef. So, okay, we'll come up with something that he can help me prep at our house.
So he's good. We're being more free. It's hard, right? It's hard to be free with the knife. Like, go ahead, cut that up. But I'm like, okay, he's going to cut his finger off. So,
all right. So, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. I'm gonna take you briefly out of the broadcast in a minute and put you backstage, but don't leave. So afterwards, when we end the broadcast, we can chat together.
Absolutely.
Thanks. Oh, and what is your website if people want to actually?
Oh, yes. You can go to, if you want to see everything, it's Lisa Rock Entertainment.
Lisa Rock Entertainment. I'm typing it. Lisa Rock Entertainment. There it is.
Yep. And then close to you is close2youonline.com for just the Carpenters. But Lisa Rock Entertainment will take you there as well.
Yeah, so I just put it up at the bottom of the screen. So if anybody, Lisa Rock Entertainment. Did I spell it right? Entertainment.
I know.
There we go. All right. So people go to LisaRockEntertainment.com. We're going to go ahead and Lisa's rocking. Somebody just said.
You're sweet.
Right. Let me
stop by and supporting Tommy as well, supporting Tommy's theater and just anything live when it comes back. I know we're all going to be all over that, and we look forward to being a part of that again, all of us as a family, right?
Me too. All right, Lisa, thank you so much. I'm going to take you out of the stream for just a minute, and then we'll bring you back afterwards. So thanks again for coming.
Thank you. Bye.
So everybody, thank you so much for coming tonight. Next week, I'm excited to be interviewing my good friend Mojo from Mojo and the Bayou Gypsies. He's going to be an amazing interview as well. If you are not on our email list, please go to our website. I'm putting it up at the bottom of the screen right now. Click on to be added to our email list. Every Thursday night, I send out an update about the next week's interview, but I also list who the next 4 or 5 interviewees are after that. And I've just got a couple of new ones booked for July. So you'll have a little sneak preview in the next email that goes out about July. So we're looking forward to continuing this every Tuesday that we can. So for the time being, since we know we're not having live performance at our theater for a while through the fall, we're going to keep doing this, and we may revisit some of the artists that we've already interviewed as we get further into the fall, because hopefully we'll pick up new viewers and people who haven't seen these interviews yet. So keep spreading the word. Go to our Facebook page, share out these videos to other people, because we would love to get more people watching us. So I'm so excited that you were all here with us tonight. So with that, I'm going to say thank you, everyone, and we're going to sign off for tonight. And hopefully I will see you all next Tuesday when I interview Mr. Mojo.